2025 will go down in history as the year the internet's false idols finally got punched in the mouth. And I mean that literally. If you were anywhere near a screen on December 20th, you witnessed something that wasn't just a fight. It was the public execution of a myth. I'm talking, of course, about the bout between reality TV goofball Chase DeMoor and the self-proclaimed top G, Andrew Tate. Now let's set the stage properly, because the context here is everything. Going into this night, the atmosphere was thick with a very specific kind of dread. The narrative was set in stone by the internet. On one side, you had Chase DeMoor, a man best known for being awkward on Netflix, a guy who moves with all the coordination of a baby giraffe on an ice rink. Everyone, from the commentators to the casuals on Twitter, thought Chase was walking to his own funeral. On the other side, you had Andrew Tate, the Cobra, the four-time world kickboxing champion, the man who convinced a generation of lonely young men that he is a modern-day samurai, a warrior monk who spent his house arrest doing nothing but push-ups and shadow boxing in a dungeon, plotting his revenge on the Matrix. The script was supposed to be simple. The master martial artist clinically disposes of the reality TV amateur in round one. It was supposed to be a massacre, and it was, but not the one anyone expected, because when the bell rang, Andrew Tate didn't look like a cobra. He looked like a man who had forgotten that the other guy is allowed to hit back.
I don't even know. I've not yet had time to process why he beat me. I got tired after the second round, and I don't know why. The first and second round, he couldn't touch me. If I didn't get tired, I would have won.
By the middle of the second round, the illusion shattered. Andrew Tate, the alpha male of our generation, was melting. He was gasping for air, his hands were low, and he looked less like a world-class kickboxer and more like a dad who overestimated his cardio at a family barbecue. And the most embarrassing part? He wasn't getting dismantled by a pro. He was getting rocked by Chase DeMoor, a guy who fights with his chin straight up in the air, swinging wild, telegraphed haymakers that you could see coming from next Tuesday. Chase fights like he's trying to swat bees away from a picnic, and yet this is the man who dragged the top G into deep water and drowned him. So the question burning a hole in the internet is this: how does a man with decades of fighting experience, a man who claims to be the pinnacle of masculine performance, get dog walked by a guy from a dating show? To answer that, we have to peel back the layers of the Andrew Tate myth. We have to stop watching the edited TikToks with the Sigma male music and start looking at the reality. And when you do that, you realize that the alarm bells for fraudulent martial arts nonsense have been ringing for a long time. You just couldn't hear them over the noise of his Ferraris. Let's start with the stamina issue. Andrew Tate gassed out in 6 minutes flat. This is the same man who, just months prior, staged a viral stunt where he fought 60 men in a row. 60 men. A feat of endurance that should be physically impossible for someone with the cardio we saw against Chase. So, I went back and watched the footage of that 60-man kumite. And once you stop being impressed by the headline and actually look at the video, the scam reveals itself. First off, look at his opponents. These aren't fighters. Most of them look like they've never thrown a punch in anger in their lives. They are small, timid, and clearly terrified to actually hit him. But there is a darker trick being played here. If you look in the background of those videos, you see the opponents being drilled like military recruits. They are being forced to do burpees, sprints, and excruciating calisthenics before they ever step in the ring with Tate. Anyone who has ever done a combat sport knows exactly what this is. It's called pre-exhaustion. Tate was fighting kids whose lungs were burning and whose arms were heavy while he was fresh and dancing around. It wasn't a display of skill, it was theater. It was a stage play designed to make the king look invincible to an audience that doesn't know any better. But the 60-man kumite is just the tip of the iceberg. The rot goes deeper. We need to talk about those 4 world titles he never shuts up about. Tate fought mostly under the ISKA and Infusion. Now these are real organizations, but in the combat sports world, they are feeder leagues. They aren't the Premier League, they are the minor leagues where guys go to build a shiny record before getting fed to the real wolves in places like K1 or Glory. I dug into the profiles of the men Andrew Tate defeated to become a champion, and it reads like a comedy sketch. You have guys like Too Hot Scott Gibson, whose entire career seems to consist of fighting Andrew Tate. You have guys with records like 4 fights, 3 losses. He built his career on beating cans, human punching bags used to pad stats. But then I found the smoking gun. There is a fighter on Tate's record named Mirlom Ameti. When I looked him up on Topology, the premier fight database, I was greeted with a warning label, a literal warning label in red text that says, "This fighter is known for engaging in bouts with no reasonable path to victory." In plain English, he is a professional loser. He is paid to lose. Milom Amiti's record is a wall of first-round losses. He loses in 30 seconds, 40 seconds, diving faster than a soccer player in the penalty box. And in 2020, right when Tate needed to look like a killer to launch his online persona, who did he fight? Milom Ameti, a man whose only job is to fall down. This is the reality of the top G. He isn't a warrior battling against the world, he is a curator. He carefully handpicked opponents who couldn't hurt him, scenarios where he couldn't lose, and edited the footage to look like a god. He spent so many years crushing cans that he forgot what it feels like to be in a ring with a large, angry man who actually wants to hurt him. And that is why Chase DeMoor shocked him. Chase was too stupid to follow the script. But you know what? Losing isn't the problem. I want to be crystal clear about this. Losing a fight doesn't make you a fraud. Anyone who steps into a ring, whether they are a world champion or a hobbyist like me, risks losing. I have been beaten up in the gym more times than I can count. It sucks. It hurts your ego, but it's part of the game. You take the loss, you learn, and you get better. The reason Andrew Tate is a fraud isn't because he lost. It's because of what he did immediately after. For years, Tate has preached accountability. He tells his followers, "I am the only one responsible for my life." And excuses are for losers. And yet, the moment the decision was read, the excuses started flowing. But he did it in that slimy, manipulative way where he pretends he isn't making excuses. He grabbed the mic and said, "I could say that I'm too old. I could say that he's 40 pounds heavier than me. I could say that being under house arrest for 3 years destroyed my training, but I won't say those things." Do you see what he did there? He literally listed every single excuse while claiming he wasn't saying them. It's a coward's tactic. It's giving his fanboys a list of bullet points to defend him with in the YouTube comments. Oh, Tate only lost because of the weight difference. No, Tate lost because he isn't as good as he says he is. He spent 3 years telling us he was training in his living room like Batman, preparing for his revenge. He sold courses on discipline based on that image. And then, when he lost, suddenly the story changed to, "Oh, well, I was trapped in my house and I couldn't train properly." Which is it, Andrew? Are you the master of your own destiny, or are you a victim of circumstance? You can't be both. The truth is, looking at his physique and his gas tank, he probably spent those 3 years watching the Great British Bake Off and tweeting. I know I'm probably not going to change the mind of a die-hard Tate fan with this video. If you are still paying $50 a month to Hustlers University in 2026, you are probably too far gone. You have strapped your identity to this man, and admitting he is a fraud would mean admitting you've been conned. I get it. It's hard to let go. But for the rest of us, this fight was a necessary moment of clarity. It shattered the aura. It proved that the alpha god is just a guy with decent kickboxing technique from a decade ago, sure, but mostly just a guy who is really good at marketing. The Andrew Tate we saw in that ring against Chase DeMoor is the real Andrew Tate, not the edited clips on TikTok, not the staged cumities, just a tired, aging man getting punched in the face by a reality TV star and realizing he has no answer for it. Losing is a part of life, but building a fake record, staging fake fights, and making slime ball excuses when reality finally comes knocking, that isn't alpha, that isn't masculine, it's just embarrassing. So, rip down the posters, cancel the subscription. The Emperor has no clothes, and thanks to Chase DeMoor, he has a black eye to match. If you enjoyed this reality check, maybe subscribe. We've got a lot more internet weirdos to talk about next week. See you then.